You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon.
Hi,
Ms. England, how old are you?
I am 26.
And where do you currently reside? You don't give me an address, but do you live here in Florida?
No, Boston, Massachusetts.
Are you working?
Yes.
Where do you work?
A software firm, and I do marketing for them.
How long have you been doing that?
About 2.5 years now.
All right. Ms. England, do you know a person by the name of Troy Brown?
Yes, I do.
How do you know Troy Brown?
I went to high school with Troy Brown, and then we dated a couple years ago.
Were you dating back in June, July of 2008?
Yes, we were.
Back in June and July of 2008, where were you living?
I was living in Northern Virginia, Arlington.
Referring you to July 2nd of 2008, did you happen to be in Florida?
Yes, I was in Orlando visiting Troy.
Okay. You came down to visit Troy? Mm-hmm. You need to say yes or no for the court.
Oh, sorry, yes.
That's okay. You came on July 2nd. Who picked you up from the airport?
Troy did.
Prior to coming down to Orlando, did you know a person by the name of Caylee Anthony?
I did not know her before I came.
Did you know of her? Had you heard her name before?
Yes, Troy had mentioned her.
When you arrived here in Orlando, Troy picked you up from the airport. And from there, where immediately did you go?
I dropped my things off at where he was living, and then we went to a place called Voyage.
Had you been down to visit Troy before in Orlando?
No, this was my first trip.
This was actually your first trip to Orlando at all?
I had been younger, but this was my first trip to visit Troy, yes.
You went to a place called Voyage.
Yes.
Do you remember where that is?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. Were you expecting to go there?
He had mentioned that that was where he would like to take me.
Was it your understanding that you were going to meet some of Troy's friends there?
Yes.
All right. While you were at Voyage, did you meet Caylee Anthony?
I did.
All right. Now, when you first met her, can you tell the jury what her demeanor was at the club?
She was very friendly, outgoing. She introduced herself to me immediately and was asking about Troy and I's plans for the weekend.
Did you have plans for that weekend?
We did. We were going to stay in Orlando for a few nights and then go to Sarasota to visit one of my friends for the 4th of July.
At that time, were you aware of what type of employment Troy Brown had?
Yes.
What was he doing at the time?
He was a valet at a hotel in downtown.
Now, when you came down to visit, did he take the rest of the week off?
He had taken off, but then was called in for the following day.
So he had to work on July 3rd.
Yes.
To your knowledge, did Caylee Anthony know that?
Not to my knowledge.
Did the defendant inquire as to what you guys were going to do while you were in town?
Yes, she did. Just ask what my plans were, and that is when I told her, Troy and I both told her that he had to work, so we didn't have plans the next day.
When you told the defendant that, did she say anything to you?
Yes, she said that she was off work, and she offered to take me around shopping while he was busy at work.
And did you agree to, did you say, did you?
Yes. Overall.
Did you accept her offer?
Yes.
Now, while you were how long were you at Club Voyage, approximately?
We got there late at night. We were probably there for about 3 hours.
Were you drinking?
Yes.
Was Troy drinking?
Yes.
Was the defendant drinking?
That I can remember, yes.
Was there anything?
Oru?
Was there anything about the defendant's demeanor that reflected anything but being, like you described earlier, happy and outgoing?
No,
When you met her, did she mention to you that she had a daughter?
no.
Did you know from other means that she had a daughter?
Troy had mentioned it to me previously.
But when you first met the defendant, she didn't say anything about it,
No,
about her, I should say.
No.
Did she tell you that, that her daughter was missing
no,
or had been kidnapped
no,
or that she was looking for her
no,
or that she needed your help to help find her?
no,
Did she tell you that anything bad had happened to her?
no,
Was there anything in her demeanor that night at Club Voyage that would indicate that there was anything wrong with the defendant?
no.
While you were at Club Voyage, did she talk about anything else?
She mentioned that she was going to get a tattoo the next day and invited me to go with her since she invited me. She invited or offered me to spend the day with her while Troy worked.
Did you want to get a tattoo?
No, I wasn't interested in that, so I told her I wouldn't go with her.
The rest of the night, did anything remarkable happen?
Nope.
Did you have a set plan or where you were going to meet the defendant the next day?
She was going to pick me up, we were going to meet at a mutual friend of theirs, JP's house. But no plan that I was aware of was in place.
Before you left the defendant's presence that night on July 2nd, did you exchange phone numbers?
No,
Did you exchange email addresses?
no.
How did you get in touch, or how did the defendant get in touch with you on July 3rd?
Through Troy.
Approximately what time was that?
It was in the afternoon. I don't recall the exact time. I would say around noon.
And just to reiterate, where were you staying while here in Orlando?
Troy lived with his sister then, so we were staying at his place that night.
What is his sister's name?
Kara.
Okay. Now, did you leave Troy's sister's house to go to JP's
Yes, with Troy.
with Troy?
Yes.
How soon after you arrived there did you see the defendant?
Immediately. She was already there.
Did you see what type of car the defendant had?
Not when I got there, but when we were together later.
Okay. When you first saw the defendant on July 3rd of 2008, can you tell the jury what her demeanor was like when you first saw her?
It was similar to the night before. She was, again, happy and friendly and very outgoing to me.
Did she tell you at that point that her daughter was missing
No,
or had been kidnapped
no,
or she was looking for her
no,
or that she needed help in looking for her?
no,
Did she tell you or indicate to you in any way that anything bad had happened to her?
no.
She was in the same mood as the night before.
Yes.
How long did you stay at JP's house?
It was a short amount of time, not very long. Troy went to work shortly after.
How did Troy get to work?
I believe that we dropped him off, but I can't remember exactly.
So you, at some point, you left JP's house.
Yes,
Who did you leave the house with?
with Casey.
Just the two of you? Or you believe you did?
Yes,
All right. You didn't have a car, is that correct?
no,
All right. Who drove?
Casey did.
What type of car did you get into?
It was a Grand Cherokee type car, an SUV.
Did the defendant mention to you whose car that was?
She mentioned that it was her boyfriend, Tony's car, and that her car was in the shop.
Did she give you any other detail about what was wrong with her car?
No, that was it.
Do you know a person by the name of Amy Huizinga?
I met her that weekend as well.
Did you meet her the night before?
Yes.
Had you ever met her before?
No.
Was this somebody that you had heard about through Troy?
Yes.
Did the defendant tell you anything about Amy Huizinga?
There was a story about how Amy had lost some money the night before while she was sleepwalking. And
We have a 4-3, and may we approach?
You may. Objection sustained. Next question.
Thank you, Judge. All right, so you and Ms. Anthony left. Where'd you go?
we first went to a Target and then later on the Florida Mall.
While at Target, do you recall the defendant receiving any phone calls?
Yes, she did.
First of all, do you know when the phone call came in who it was from?
No, I did not.
Could you hear any of the defendant's part of the conversation?
We weren't close, as I mentioned, so I stood a little further away to give her privacy, but she was arguing with someone on the phone.
Was this a long argument or a short argument?
It wasn't extremely long. It wasn't a quick one either. It was, I would say, maybe 5-10 minutes.
What makes you say that it was an argument?
Well, just the way, the demeanor that Casey was speaking, just harshly and sounded irritated.
During the course of that conversation that she had on the phone, did you hear the defendant use any particular words?
She referenced I could overhear that it was about money issues, and then I also heard her mention the word nanny. So I thought that she was probably talking to her mother, but she didn't say that until she had hung up the phone.
Okay. So after the conversation, did you ask her, did you say anything to her at all?
Yeah, I just asked if she was okay, and she said, yeah, I just had an argument with my mom.
I'm sorry.
With her mother.
Did she elaborate at all about what that argument was about?
No, she didn't.
Did you ask?
No, I didn't.
Now, while you were initially shopping with the defendant, did you know that she was dating somebody?
Yes, because she mentioned that it was her boyfriend's car that we were riding in.
Okay. Did she talk about her boyfriend?
Yes, she did. She referenced him a lot and that it was new, but she really liked him.
During this time period, did she mention anything about her daughter?
No, she didn't.
All right. After you went to Target, where did you go from there?
To the mall.
Okay. Do you know which mall you went to?
I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay. And what did you do at the mall?
We just shopped at a couple of different stores. I think she purchased a few things and I didn't.
While you were at the mall, do you recall the defendant either making phone calls or receiving phone calls?
Not at the mall, I don't recall, but she was on her cell phone often throughout the day.
Doing what?
Mostly texting.
Did you ever ask her who she was texting?
No.
Did she ever volunteer?
One text message, she referenced that it was her work contacting her and saying that she was on vacation and they were contacting her about something they needed.
Did she relate to you anything about her employment?
That's when I asked. After she referenced that, I asked what she did for work.
Okay, and what did she tell you?
She told me that she was an event coordinator for Universal Studios.
And what were you doing at the time? What kind of work were you doing at the time?
I was also doing marketing, but for a different firm in Northern Virginia.
Did you start to talk about your respective jobs?
Yes, because I did events with that current organization, so we just talked a little bit about event planning and how it can be stressful and things like that.
Did the defendant tell you that event planning was stressful?
Yeah, and just, people always asking a lot of questions.
Did she give you any indication of what her work hours were?
No, but she referenced that she was on vacation.
Did she make any comments about her work or about the text or the message that she had received while you were out shopping with her?
Not what it said or anything.
Okay. While you were at the mall, did the topic of her daughter come up?
No.
Did you ever hear her, while you were with her at the mall or at Target, talk to purportedly to the nanny
No.
or to her daughter?
No.
From the mall, where did you go from there?
We stopped by Troy's sister's house where he was living at the time so that I could get ready for the evening.
Did the defendant stay with you?
She came inside with me, yes.
Okay. Did she ever leave?
Well, we left together, but no, she stayed with me as I got ready.
Again, while you were at JP's house, did she reference her daughter
No.
in any way,
No.
good or bad?
No, just no reference.
Okay. And how long do you think you were at JP's house before you left?
Well, we were at Troy's sister's
I'm
house.
sorry, Troy's sister's house.
When we were at Troy's sister's house, there was actual, speaking of Caylee, after Troy's sister asked about her.
Okay. Without going into what his sister may have said, what do you recall the defendant saying about her daughter?
She was referencing that she was thinking about leaving Orlando because the school system wasn't the public school system wasn't as great, and would wanted to take Caylee somewhere that she could get a better education.
And again, this was on July 3rd of 2008.
Yes.
From that location, where did you go next?
To dinner.
Where'd you go?
We went to the restaurant that Amy was working at.
Do you remember the name of it?
I think it started with an H, but I don't remember the name.
Okay. If I said the word Houlihan's, would that ring a bell?
It does ring a bell, yes.
Who went out to dinner?
It was just Casey and I.
Any idea what time you went?
No. It was a while ago, I'm sorry.
Okay. When you went to Houlihan's, was Amy working?
Yes, we sat in her section.
Was that on purpose? Did you want to sit in her section?
Yes.
And did Amy Huizinga serve you dinner?
Yes, she did.
What do you recall you and Casey talking about at dinner?
I asked, after Caylee had been brought up, I asked some more questions, but nothing too deep. It was just a light dinner conversation.
Okay. What do you recall the defendant saying about her daughter?
I just asked her to elaborate about wanting to leave Orlando and things of that nature. And
What did she say?
I don't recall exactly, but she just seemed to elaborate that she liked Orlando and it was her home, but she would have to think about it further if she left.
Based upon this conversation, were you left with the impression that Caylee was fine?
Yes.
Did she tell you that she had been kidnapped
No.
or missing?
No.
Again, was there any change in the defendant's demeanor at dinner than it was at the mall or at Target or at Club Voyage the night before?
No.
How would you describe her demeanor at dinner?
She was happy.
Did she talk any more about her boyfriend?
She talked about her boyfriend several times throughout the day, but
Was there anything? Did she say anything negative about?
no, I mean, it was a lot. She was excited. It was a new relationship.
Now, after dinner, where did the two of you go?
We got Troy from work.
And again, are you still? Is the defendant still driving?
Yes.
Are you still in the black Cherokee?
Yes.
And after you picked up Troy, where did you go?
We went back to JP's house.
On the way to picking up Troy, do you recall the defendant taking a phone call?
Yes, she actually made a phone call to some friends that she was going to meet up with that night, but then changed her plans to accommodate picking up Troy and spending more time with us.
And you heard that part of the conversation.
Yes.
Upon hanging up from that call, do you recall the defendant saying anything?
Yes.
What did she say?
She said she had told the friends that she couldn't come pick them up to hang out with them because she was having car trouble or that she got a flat tire or something of that nature. And as she hung up, she said she kind of threw the phone down in the dashboard and just said, "Oh my God, I'm such a good liar."
I'm such a good
Liar.
Thank you. Picked up Troy?
Yes.
Where'd you go from there?
To JP's house.
Overruled.
You went to JP's house.
Yes.
What was the plan that night?
Just to go out to a few bars downtown.
To your knowledge, while you were getting ready to do that, was the defendant part of that plan?
Yes.
Did she leave JP's house while you were all getting ready?
I don't recall. I believe that we all went downtown together.
All right, so who went downtown?
Troy, myself, Casey, Amy met us after her shift, and their friend JP.
Do you remember where you went to first?
A place called Chillers.
Okay. Is that in downtown Orlando?
Yes.
Did you have something to drink?
Yes.
I guess alcohol.
Yes.
Was everybody drinking?
Everyone was drinking.
Did you, when you first arrived at Chillers,
Right, Your Honor.
Overruled.
when you first got to Chillers, how would you describe the defendant's demeanor?
The same, happy and just outgoing.
Any mention about Caylee,
No.
or that she was worried about her?
No.
Everybody having a good time?
Yes.
At some point, do you recall being at Chillers or anywhere else downtown, do you recall the defendant either making a phone call or receiving phone calls?
Yes.
Was it just one or two, or was it many?
It seemed to be several on and off the phone. I don't know if they were incoming or outgoing.
Did you hear any part of those conversations?
I didn't.
Could you tell any difference in the defendant's demeanor after she got off the phone?
Yes, she was upset.
Was this after the first phone call?
I don't recall if it was after the first, but through the time period, she was upset.
When you say upset, what do you mean?
I believe she was crying. She seemed to be very distraught.
Did you ask her why she was distraught?
I didn't ask her personally what was going on, but I knew that she was arguing with her brother
How did you know that?
because Troy told me that.
Did you ask her any questions?
Sustained.
Move to strike, Your Honor.
Motion to strike granted. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury disregard the last comment that the witness made about what.
Did you ask her any
someone told
questions about the phone conversation she had with her brother?
I did not.
Did the defendant's mood change?
Yes.
And when it changed, how did it change?
She was very upset. She was crying often, and the phone calls there were several of them, and she was clearly not doing well and ultimately wanted to leave.
Was she taking the phone calls? In other words, was she speaking on the phone?
It seemed so, yes.
Did the mood ever change, where from crying she went back to being,
There were times where she was trying to get back in a good mood and try to have fun, but then there would be more phone calls, and ultimately she was just upset and wanted to go and told all of us that.
did she say why?
No.
When she told you that she wanted to leave, did she appear to be in a hurry to leave?
Not to my knowledge, no.
All right. So did you all agree to leave?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
Everyone went home, went their separate ways.
From downtown, where did you go?
I went to JP's house.
Okay. Did the defendant also go to JP's house?
No, she didn't.
When did you say goodbye to Casey Anthony?
Outside of the bar, we said goodbye.
When you say we, is that you and Troy?
Yes.
All right. When you were saying goodbye, was she still upset?
She was upset. She was just asking about the rest of our plans for the weekend and if we were going to see each other because it was the holiday weekend, but she was, getting better.
Did you make any plans? Or tentative plans?
We had mentioned that we were interested in going bowling on Sunday before my flight out of town, and it was suggested that she come with Tony and bring Caylee.
And when that was suggested to her, what was the defendant's response?
She acted as if that was a good idea.
And you said goodnight?
Yep.
Did you have any subsequent phone calls or phone conversations with Casey Anthony?
I did not know.
Did you have any subsequent emails or text messages from Casey Anthony?
No, I did not.
After that night on July 3rd, did you ever see her again?
I didn't.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Cross-examination?
Good afternoon, Miss England.
Good afternoon.
You live in North Carolina?
No, I live in Boston.
Boston, excuse me. And how did you get here to Florida today?
I flew from Boston.
And did the state pay for your flight here?
Yes.
And did you have to stay at a hotel?
Yes, I did.
And they took care of that as well?
Yes.
Now, since you're here, can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how Caylee Marie Anthony died,
Close for speculation.
if you know?
Overruled.
No.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury any information about when Caylee Marie Anthony died, if you know?
No, I cannot.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury anything about where Caylee Marie Anthony died?
No.
Now, you mentioned some things under direct examination of your holiday weekend, and Mr. George asked you about Casey confiding in you about her missing daughter.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Mr. George had questioned you about Casey not confiding in you about her missing daughter,
Right.
and that she didn't tell you that she needed help.
No, she did not.
She didn't tell you that she was distraught.
No.
She didn't tell you about any tragedy that she was going as it relates to Caylee.
No.
In fact, you knew her to be happy-go-lucky,
Yes, I did.
and there didn't seem to be a thing wrong or anything that would indicate to you that her daughter was deceased.
No.
She didn't also confide in you about her childhood, did she?
No, she didn't.
She didn't tell you She didn't tell you anything about when she was 10 years old.
Objection, Your Honor. Assuming facts not in evidence.
Sustained.
She didn't tell you about any of her horrors or what she's gone through in life,
Objection, Your
has she?
Honor. Assuming facts not in evidence.
Sustained.
She didn't tell you anything. Miss England.
Just a second.
Oh, sorry.
You ready? You may proceed.
Miss England, you barely knew Caylee Anthony.
That is correct.
In fact, you had just met her that weekend.
Yes.
And you really don't know anything about how good a mother she was,
I don't.
whether she loved her daughter,
No.
whether her daughter loved her,
No.
or anything other than what occurred on the 4th of July weekend.
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
No, sir. Thank you.
Fine.
Good afternoon, sir. Mr. Brown, how old are you?
I'm 26 years old.
Do you currently live in the state of Florida?
I do not.
Where do you live?
I live in the state of Virginia.
Are you employed?
I am.
What do you do?
I work in advertising sales
How long have you been doing that?
for a little over 2 years now.
Were you living here in Central Florida in 2007 and 2008?
I was.
While you were here in 2008, what were you doing?
I was a student,
Where were you going to school?
University of Central Florida.
Did you graduate from UCF?
I did.
With what? What type of degree?
Degree in marketing.
Do you know Caylee Anthony?
I do.
When did you first meet Caylee Anthony?
I met her through a friend of a friend of an ex-girlfriend at a birthday party in 2007.
Did you stay in regular contact with her throughout 2007 and into 2008?
I didn't see her very often. It was every now and then. I saw her more often when she started dating one of my good friends, Ricardo Morales.
You were aware that the defendant and Mr. Morales were dating?
Yes.
Were you aware when they broke up?
Yes.
Were you ever roommates with Ricardo?
I was not.
Do you know who Tony Lazaro is?
I know of Tony Lazaro. I've met him on like 2 times, but I don't know him very well.
All right. The first time that you met Mr. Lazaro, do you recall when that was?
It was in May of 2008 at a party.
What kind of party, do you recall?
It was just a house party. I think one of his friends was DJing it. So, yeah,
All right. And also, did you see the defendant that night?
I did.
Do you know who Caylee Anthony is?
I do.
Did you see Caylee soon after her birth?
No, I wouldn't have. I didn't see her until probably late 2007, sometime before I initially met her, but before Ricardo started dating her.
Did you see Caylee Anthony in June of 2008?
Yes,
Where did you see Caylee Anthony in June of 2008?
at Ricardo Morales' house.
When you saw Caylee, did you also see Casey?
Yes.
After June 9th or June 10th of 2008, when was the next time you saw Casey Anthony?
After June 10th,
Yes.
I believe late June, because I went on a trip. I went back home to Virginia for about a week or so.
Okay. During the month of June, did you communicate with Casey Anthony?
I did. There was a Facebook message that she had sent me.
May I approach the witness? Sir, I'm showing you what's marked for identification LM. Do you recognize that?
I do.
Can you tell us what that is?
That is a printout of a Facebook conversation,
Okay. The Facebook conversation between whom?
myself and the defendant.
Do you recognize your name or address on that communication?
I recognize my name.
Okay. Do you also recognize the defendant's name or email address?
I do.
Looking at that, does that appear to be a true conversation between the two of you in June of 2008?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, the state would move what's been previously marked for identification LM into evidence as the state's next in line.
We would object and request a sidebar on it.
Okay. Okay, you may continue. Objection, I believe, will be overruled.
And Your Honor, the state would move it into evidence as the state's next in line.
Okay. And that will be over defense objections. It'd be what?
Can you make that any bigger?
You want to blow that up, son?
Yeah, no, can you get it any higher? Without losing. Okay. Let's just go there.
Yes, can you blow that up? Help him. Go over there and see.
Okay. Sir, can you see what's on the screen there?
I can.
All right. Your Honor, may I publish this to the jury at this time?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, this is an email from, or a Facebook message from the defendant to you.
Yes.
Okay, what's the date on that?
June 24th, 2008.
Can you read she sent you?
Yeah. Do you want me to reference what I'm referencing to
Yes.
it? Okay. This is talking about, I guess, Amy was supposed to be moving in with Casey, and this was the message she sent me. She still has yet to move into the house. Hell, in the past 9 days, I haven't even been. Oh. Okay.
She has to take down everything you're saying.
I got you. Start back up. She still has yet to move into the house. Hell, in the past 9 days, I haven't even been living at the house. Drama, I'll fill you in later.
Then it's miss you.
Yes.
Okay. Did you ask her what the drama was?
I didn't, no.
Okay, you can cut it. Or I can cut it, I'm sorry. Who is Amy Huizinga?
She was actually a friend of mine. My roommate my freshman year knew her from high school, and that's how I originally met her. And she was a friend of all of ours. And then when when Ricardo started dating Casey, they became friends just because being in the same social circles.
Prior to receiving that message, did you and the defendant have any conversations about the defendant's living situation?
I knew that her and the defendant and Amy were looking for a place together.
Did you have an understanding as to where they were going to be moving to?
No, I believe it was they were just looking.
To your knowledge, was Amy under the impression she was going to be living with the defendant?
Yes.
Ask to strike.
Your Honor, I asked based on his knowledge.
The witness,
Sir, what is your knowledge based upon?
Just prior conversations with Amy Huizinga.
Sustain.
You didn't have any conversations with the defendant about that?
I don't know. I don't remember exactly conversations that we had, but I know that there were. I don't know dates, but I know there was conversations.
You had indicated that you went home to Virginia during the early part of June.
The mid part of June.
Mid part of
yes.
June of 2008. When did you come back?
I believe I came back on the 18th of June.
Other than the periodic emails, conversations with the defendant, did you have any contact with her for the rest of the month of June?
No.
Okay. Going into July of 2008, did you see the defendant?
I did. I saw her on June 2nd.
June 2nd or July 2nd?
Or July 2nd, sorry.
Okay. Who is Melissa England?
She was a girl that I was seeing at the time that was just flying in for the weekend.
During this time period, were you working, sir?
I was.
Where were you working?
I was working at what was the Sheridan downtown hotel.
What were you doing there?
I was a valet parker.
When Melissa came down, did she stay with you?
She did.
How long had Miss England's trip been planned?
I'm not 100% sure. Probably
That's
within the
okay.
last, month would
When
be
you-
my assumption.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you. While speaking with her, did you mention any of your friends
When speaking with,
with Miss England about coming down and who you guys would be spending time with and what you'd be doing?
not that I recall, no.
All right. When did she come to Orlando?
July 2nd.
All right. Did you pick her up at the airport?
I did.
And from the airport, where did you go?
We went back to my sister's house, which is where I was living at the time. And then later that night, we went out to Voyage, which was a bar, and then to another bar after that.
When you went to Voyage, did you see the defendant?
Yes.
Were you planning on seeing the defendant there that night?
I would imagine so, but I'm sure the plans were just made the day of or the night of. It wasn't anything planned in, long term.
When you arrived at Voyage, was the defendant already there?
I don't recall.
Okay. What time do you have any idea about what time you got there?
I don't know the exact time.
All right. So who's in your group of people that you're at Voyage with?
It's myself, Melissa, Amy, the defendant, and I believe that's it.
All right. And what can you tell the jury about the defendant's demeanor when you saw her at Voyage?
Normal, I would say. I mean, she was just out. We all were drinking and just like it was a normal night, I guess.
In a good mood?
I would say so, yes.
Okay. Did you ever see her angry that night?
Not that night, no.
Sad?
No.
Did she tell you that her daughter was missing?
She did not.
Kidnapped?
No.
That she was looking for her?
No.
Did she tell you that anything had happened to Casey herself?
No.
Was there anything in her demeanor that led you to believe that anything was wrong?
Not at all.
Do you recall having any specific conversations with the defendant about Caylee that night?
Not that evening, no.
All right. You said after Voyage, you went to another club. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you remember the name of it?
I believe it was Mako's.
Okay. Is that in downtown Orlando?
Yes.
When you went to Mako's, did the same group go there,
I believe so, yes.
including the defendant?
Yes.
Did you introduce your then girlfriend, Ms. England, to Casey?
I did.
All right. Did they seem to hit it off?
Yeah, I mean, they just seemed like, Melissa has a personality where she would, she's very accepting, I guess. So but yes, would be the short answer.
Okay. And was the defendant friendly
Yes.
to her?
Yes.
How late did you stay out that night?
I don't recall. Probably 1 a.m. would be, I would assume.
Were you aware on July 2nd of 2008 that Ms. England and the defendant were going to spend the next day together?
I believe they did speak about that because I had to work the following day, and she didn't have anything to do for the 8-hour period that I'd be working. So I think she just volunteered to kind of take her out.
All right. All right, let's move on to the next day, July 3rd.
Okay.
On July 3rd of 2008, in the morning or noontime, did you see the defendant?
I don't recall.
All right. Where did you go when you woke up in the morning? What'd you do?
On July 3rd,
On July 3rd.
I don't recall. I know I worked that afternoon, but I don't know what I did in the morning.
Do you recall seeing the defendant before you went to work?
Yes, I believe I was actually dropped off to work by the defendant, and Miss England was in the vehicle with us.
Okay. Do you remember the type of car?
I don't, but I know it was Tony Lazzaro's car.
How do you know that?
Because she told me, and it wasn't her car, so I was just curious, I guess.
Do you recall her telling you where her car was?
Not the location, but I knew that there were issues with the car.
Okay. What kind of issues were you made aware of about the car?
I was just made a generalization that there were problems with the car, but I had no specific points to it.
Okay. So you were driving, or you were given a ride to work in Tony Lazzaro's car?
Correct.
All right. And you went to work?
Yes.
Did you speak with Melissa during the course of the day?
I don't believe so. It was just I was picked up by them since I was dropped off. So
All
I
right.
spoke after work.
Do you recall what time you got off work?
It's either 10 or 11 o'clock. It was the late shift.
And upon being picked up, where did you go?
We went to Ricardo's house from there, and then from there we took a taxi to some bars downtown.
All right. And when you say we, who are you talking about?
Myself, Melissa, Casey, Amy, and I believe that's it.
Again, when you saw the defendant on the night of July 3rd of 2008, what can you tell this jury about her demeanor?
She was upset when she was receiving phone calls throughout the night, and we were led to believe that it was from her brother, and she was visibly upset to the point of like crying in front of us. And yes.
Did you overhear any of the conversations that the defendant was having on the phone while you were out with her on July 3rd?
I did not, just visual reactions is what I saw.
Did she stop crying?
She'd be like, when she got off the phone, she'd be in her regular mood. And then when she would get back on the phone, she would be upset once again.
All right. And was this more than one phone call?
Yes, there were multiple phone calls. I don't know the exact amount, but there were multiple phone calls.
Was this over a short period of time or a
Yes.
long period of time?
It was within an hour or two.
At some point, what happened when the phone calls kept coming?
She just asked to leave. She wanted us to leave, so we left. We went back to Ricardo's house, and I don't believe Casey came with us. She went off and did her own thing. We just went back to Ricardo's house.
So did you say goodbye to her that night?
I'm sure we exchanged some sort of goodbye, but I don't recall exactly where or when.
After that, did you have any contact with Caylee Anthony?
There were phone calls after that, but I don't believe there were phone calls regarding the trip to Puerto Rico that we were planning, but
All right, let's talk about that for a second.
okay.
You had a trip planned to Puerto Rico?
We did. It was myself, Ricardo, John Chat, and Amy.
And Amy.
Yeah.
To your knowledge, was the defendant ever part of that plan to go to Puerto Rico?
She was, but she never gave a direct answer whether or not she was going. She just kind of pushed it off and said she might be going.
Did you ever have any final conversations with her about whether or not she was actually going to go?
I did. It was on July 10th. And she had mentioned that I guess it was official that she wasn't going to go.
Did she tell you why?
Because she was trying to find a place to live and because she was trying to find a car.
Did she mention anything about her daughter?
She did not.
Did you go to Puerto Rico?
I did.
When did you return?
July 15th.
When you returned on July 15th, did you see the defendant again?
I did.
Where did you see her?
She picked us up from the airport in Amy Huizinga's car.
Did she give you all a ride back?
She did, yes.
Was there anything about her demeanor when you saw her on July 15th that led you to believe that there was anything wrong with her?
No.
Did she tell you that her daughter was missing at that point?
No.
Kidnapped?
No.
That she was looking for her?
No.
That she needed help?
No.
What was her mood when she picked you up on July 15th?
She seemed normal.
Thank you, sir. I don't have any further questions at this time.
Cross-examination.
Mr. Brown, good afternoon, sir. Do you have any information for this jury to tell them how Caylee died?
I do not.
Do you have any information that might help them know where Caylee died?
I do not.
Do you have any information to help them with when Caylee died?
I do not.
Thank you, sir.
May the witness be excused. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. You may be excused.
My name is Yasin Donov, Iassen, last name Donov.
You may
May I inquire,
proceed.
sir?
You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, sir.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Good. Mr. Donov, how old are you?
I'm 27.
Do you currently live here in Florida?
Yes.
What do you do?
I am a pharmaceutical recruiter.
A pharmaceutical recruiter?
Yes, sir.
What does that mean?
When pharmaceutical companies need an executive, they come to somebody like me, and I find them for them.
How long have you been doing that?
About a year.
What's your educational background, sir?
I have a bachelor's from UCF,
When did you graduate from UCF?
December of 2010.
What type of degree?
Political science?
Do you know Caylee Anthony?
Yes, I do.
When did you first meet Caylee Anthony?
I first met her in January of 2007.
Did you remain friends with her
Since that time, yes.
since that time? I'm sorry. Thank you for filling that in for me. Since that time.
Yes, sir.
How did you meet her?
She was dating my friend Brandon Snow, and he introduced her to me.
Did you meet her in June of 2008?
Did I
Did
know
you
her?
see her in June of 2008?
Yes.
Where'd you see her?
At the Ale House.
Do you recall when that was?
I don't know the specific date.
Was it the end of the month or the beginning of the month?
Towards the end.
All right. Who was at Buffalo Wild Wings?
Buffalo Wild Wings, which was July 2nd. It was myself, Sean Daly, Corey, Brandon Snow, and another girl, Layla.
I'm sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. Let's go back to the end of June. You said the Ale House?
Yes, and it was the same group of people, I believe.
Okay. Were you planning on seeing the defendant there?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Okay. When you saw her at the Ale House at the end of June of 2008, what can you tell this jury about how she appeared? What was her demeanor?
I didn't notice the difference. Typical Casey.
What is typical Caylee?
Social, happy, talkative.
Did she talk to you about her daughter on that day?
No,
Did she tell you her daughter was missing,
no,
kidnapped,
no,
that she was looking for her,
no,
that she needed help?
no,
Did she tell you that anything bad had happened to her?
no.
By all accounts, she was happy.
Yes, sir.
How long did you stay with her, or how much time did you spend with her that night?
Oh, I don't recall. We were all there for dinner. I would say 2-3 hours.
Did you, knowing her since 2007, you were aware that she had a daughter?
Yes, sir.
Had you met Caylee?
Once at her second birthday party.
Since her second birthday party, you never saw her again?
No, sir.
Did you ask about her?
Never.
And again, I'm talking about the Ale House. When you were at the
Never
Ale
at the Ale House.
Okay. Did you all have a good time?
Yes, sir.
Other than y'all having a good time, is there anything remarkable about that night?
Typical, just like all our other nights.
Okay. During this time period, in June of 2008, you kept in contact with her in other ways, did you not?
Yes, sir.
How so?
AOL Instant Messenger.
What did you know about the defendant's employment during this time period?
At that time period, I believe she worked at Universal Studios.
Doing what?
Event coordinator.
Did she ever tell you about her job?
Other than the title, I never asked much about it.
Did you ever have any reason to doubt that she worked there?
No, sir.
Did you ever ask her about her child care issue, if there was any child care issues?
I did. I had one question on AOL's messenger. I asked her when she works. You know, what does she do with Caylee?
Okay. What was her response?
She has a nanny that she's known for 6 years.
Had you ever heard of this nanny before?
No, sir.
Sir, I'm showing you, or I've placed in front of you what has been marked for identification as LL. Do you mind taking a look at that?
Of course.
Sorry?
Of course, yes, sir.
Please. Take your time.
It's the transcripts between me and Casey.
Okay. First
June
of all,
and July.
First of all, let me go through it. Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
What are they?
Excuse me?
What are they?
AOL instant messenger transcripts between me and Caylee Anthony.
Okay, and this is an AOL Instant Messenger service?
Yes, sir.
What was your name for the AOL Messenger?
Doorknob 375. Doorknob 375.
And you recognize that as your name?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What about the defendants? What was her name?
Caylee Marie.
And you have seen this before, have you not?
Yes, sir.
And they are dated, these instant messages are dated from June 13th, 2008, June 19th, 2008, June 20th, 2008. July 14th, 2008. And you have previously had the occasion to review these, have you not?
Yes, sir.
Are all of these messages a true and accurate representation of the messaging that went on between you and the defendant on these dates?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move what's been previously marked for identification LL into evidence as the state's next in line.
What says the defense? As you know, the court reporter
Yes, sir.
probably didn't hear a thing
Sorry,
you said.
Sorry, Judge. We would object. I think this is another issue that would require
Same
some
basis
argument.
as the last one.
No. No.
Give me the short objection.
Much of this is irrelevant.
Okay. Based upon relevancy, it'll be overruled. It'll be entered in evidence as
Exhibit number 15.
Can you blow that up a little bit? Can you?
give me the camera. Document.
We're gonna do it in sections, Your Honor. We'll be okay.
Make sure you start at the top. And work your way down.
All right. Can you see what's in the screen in front of you?
Yes, sir.
And what is the date there?
July 13th, 2008.
All right. Now, can you go down a little bit? Okay. Can you see what's there, sir?
Yes, sir.
May I publish this, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. What's the topic of the conversation here, sir?
Casey moving out soon.
Okay, what was your understanding about Casey moving out?
She mentioned that she has been looking at apartments at the Winter Park Villas.
Did she give you an indication of when she wanted to move?
Within a week.
Can you go down a little bit more, Mario? To the end, that's good, to the end of the page. Look. All right. Now, you had indicated earlier that you had asked her about the, about a nanny and what provision she made with her, for her daughter when she was supposedly working. What did she tell you?
Casey's response was that she has a nanny. Quote, I love her.
Okay, this is on July 13th of 2008, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, can you go to the next page, Mario? Okay. You can go. During this time period, were you aware that she had a boyfriend?
Yes, sir.
What did she tell you about her boyfriend?
I knew his name. I believe his pictures and just from MySpace at the time.
During the course of these communications, was there an interest on your part to maybe start a relationship with the defendant?
Maybe at the time.
Did you or were you given any indications that she might be interested?
Yes, sir.
Is that the context of these messages?
A lot of them. Yes.
There's also another 403 issue.
Overrule untimely.
Have you ever heard of Fusion?
Yes, sir.
What is Fusion?
It is a sushi restaurant by day and a night lounge by night.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
A night lounge.
Did the defendant ever invite you to Fusion during the month of June 2008?
Many times.
By speaking or via email or how?
From what I remember, it's mostly via instant messenger.
Okay. Did you ever attend?
No, sir.
I have no further questions, Judge. Thank you.
Cross-examination.
You knew Caylee Anthony for how long, sir?
Since January of 2007.
So when a year and a half before she got arrested?
Yes, sir.
And throughout that time, you thought she had a nanny?
I didn't know until the instant messenger conversation. I figured that she lived with her parents.
And you thought she worked at Universal Studios?
In 2008, yes. In 2007, I believe she worked at Sports Authority.
And you also, throughout this time, believed that she was an event planner?
Yes.
And now you know none of that is true.
Yes.
And that's shocking, is it? Is it not?
It was at the time.
Okay. Shocking still now.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And when you saw her in June and July of 2008, you never noticed any difference in her behavior from before and after June 16, 2008?
No, sir.
In fact, she was friendly?
Yes, sir.
outgoing,
Yes.
just a nice person,
Yes.
before and after.
Yes.
Do you have any information, or can you tell this jury how Caylee died?
No.
No further questions, Judge.
May the witness be excused?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. You may be excused. You may.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
Good.
Mr. Salati, how old are you?
I am 26.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a mechanic.
Do you know Caylee Anthony?
Yes, I do.
How long have you known her?
Close to 11 years now.
Go to high school with her?
Yes,
Did you keep in touch with her after high school?
somewhat.
What does that mean? Off and on?
Yeah.
Were you aware that she had a daughter?
Yes.
How did you become aware of that?
I don't really know how to explain it. I just
Just kind of knew?
It knew. Yeah.
Did you ever meet Caylee?
Yes.
When?
Multiple occasions. I'd say mostly I saw Caylee when I worked at Don Reed Ford.
Okay. When was that? What year?
That was January to June of 08.
All right. Sir, back in 2008, where were you living?
Sawgrass Apartments.
Do you know the address?
My current address at the time was 2867 South Conway Road, apartment 218.
Is that the Sawgrass Apartments?
Yes,
Back in 2008, what apartment number did you live in?
218.
218. When did you first move in there?
In 2005,
And how long did you stay at that apartment?
I stayed at that apartment until late 2008, early 2009.
And then you moved?
Yeah, well, I moved. I was still in Sawgrass, but I moved to another apartment.
Okay, you don't have to tell me that apartment number.
Okay.
But you are still currently at Sawgrass?
No, I am not.
Okay. Where are you living now?
I currently live in Ventura Country Club.
Has Caylee Anthony ever been over to your apartment at the Sawgrass Apartments?
Yes.
When?
06, 07, right around in there.
And would that have been in apartment 218?
Yes.
During the months of June or July of 2008, did you see the defendant?
Yes.
Where'd you see her?
Miller's Ale House.
Where is Miller's Ale House?
It is on Alafaya Road or Alafaya Trail in East Orlando.
Do you recall when you saw her there?
I beg your pardon?
Do you recall when you saw her there?
It was July 1st.
Did you have plans to see her there? Or was that just somebody that you saw when you went?
We all knew that we were getting together.
Okay, who's we all?
Other friends, Sean Daly, Daniel Fisher, Brandon Snow.
Did you go to the ale house with the defendant?
No.
You saw her there.
Yes.
Did you say hello?
Yes.
Engage in conversation?
Yes.
How did she appear?
Completely normal.
What does normal mean?
Someone free of worry.
She happy?
Yes.
Did she tell you that her daughter was missing?
No.
Kidnapped?
No.
That she was looking for her?
No.
Did she ask you to help her find her?
No.
Did she tell you that anything terrible had happened to her?
No.
In other words, was there anything about her demeanor that gave you any cause for concern?
None.
How much time did you spend with her that night?
Maybe an hour, hour and a half.
Okay. Did she say anything about her work?
No.
Did you know whether or not she was working?
I did not.
All right. Did she say in your presence anything about her daughter, one way or the other?
No, she did not.
Did you ask her any questions about Caylee?
No, I did not.
Was that the only time you saw her during that month?
Yes.
All right. Did you have any instant messaging or text messaging or phone calls with the defendant after that date?
No, I did not.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You've known Casey for 11 years,
Approximately.
and you know Casey to be a nice person,
Yes.
caring,
Yes.
giving,
Yes.
and you've seen her interact with Caylee many times, have you not?
Yes.
And you saw the love between those two individuals, right?
Yes.
You saw how much Caylee loved Casey.
Yes.
You would see her hug Casey on occasions,
Yes.
kiss her,
Yes.
and give her lots of affection.
Yes.
Did you see how attentive a mother Casey was to Caylee?
Yes.
And did Kaylee's affection towards Casey appear to be fake in any way?
No.
It was genuine.
Yes.
And have you ever seen Caylee go without food?
No.
Have you ever seen Caylee dressed poorly or raggedy?
No.
Have you ever seen Casey abuse Caylee?
No.
Have you ever seen her strike Caylee?
No.
Have you ever seen her punish her or torture her in any way?
No.
And the entire time that you've known Casey, you never saw a change in her behavior from before June 16th and after, did you?
No, I did not.
And do you find it shocking, having known how much Caylee and Casey loved each other, that you wouldn't see a difference in her behavior?
Overrule as to that question.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Do you find it shocking that knowing and having had observed the love between Caylee and Casey, that there was no change in Casey's behavior after June 16th?
Yes.
No further questions.
Redirect.
No, sir.
Can the witness be excused?
As far as the state's concerned, yes, sir.
Defense? Any objections to the witness being excused? Okay,
May I inquire, Your Honor?
you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Judge. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
Good.
Mr. Stutz, how old are you?
I'm 23 years old.
Do you work, sir?
Yes, sir.
What do you do?
I'm an aquatics coordinator over the Lake Nona YMCA.
Appliance coordinator?
Aquatics, sorry.
Aquatics, I'm sorry. How long have you, and what do you do there?
I run the facility or the pool, operations, swim lessons, swim team, everything like that.
All right. Can you give the jury a basic idea of your educational background?
I got my bachelor's at Florida State University, and I'm currently working on my MBA at UCF.
Very good. Sir, do you know Casey Anthony?
Yes, sir.
How long have you known Ms. Anthony?
Since about 2005.
How did you meet her?
We actually met at a football game. We had a football game with a bunch of kids at Deerwood Elementary, and she came.
All right. Did you see the defendant in 2008?
Yes, sir.
When was the first time you saw her in 2008?
I believe it was about mid-May, May 16th, the week of.
And where did you see her?
She came to my parents' house.
Were you aware that she had a daughter?
Yes, sir.
When she came to you were living with your parents?
Yes, sir.
When she came to you and your parents' house in mid-May of 2008, did she bring Caylee with her?
Yes, sir.
Were your parents home?
No, sir.
How long did she stay?
She stayed the night.
Did you see her again in May of 2008?
It was about Mother's Day that she came back over.
All right. When she came over,
609.
it's all relevant testimony. Just establishing the relationship and friendship between
Approach.
between the witness and the defendant.
Approach.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as to the last question, during that series of questions, how long did she stay? And she stayed all night. You're instructed to disregard the last question and the last response. Okay, you may continue, Mr. George.
Thank you. Sir, did you see the defendant in June of 2008?
June of 2008. Not that I can remember, no, sir.
Did you ever see her driving a black Jeep Cherokee?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was that in June of 2008?
I believe that was Mother's Day.
Do you recall talking to the Orange County Sheriff's Office on June 30th of 2008? Giving an interview with the police.
Oh, yes, sir.
Do you recall being asked whether or not you had seen the defendant in June of 2008?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you remember what your response was?
No, sir.
If you saw a transcript of your interview with the police, would that help refresh your memory?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just have 1 second, Judge.
You may.
Counsel, I'm referring to page 685.
Yes, sir. I was mistaken. Sorry about that.
It's no problem.
You may.
All right, you've had a chance to review?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did that help refresh your memory?
Yes, sir.
Did you see the defendant in June of 2008?
Yes, sir.
Where did you see her?
It was at my parents' house.
Okay. When you saw her in June of 2008, was Caylee with her?
No, sir.
Do you recall about what date it was in June that you saw her?
Mid-June, probably the 17th or so.
Were you home from school during the
Summer break, yes, sir.
When she came to see you on June 17th of 2008, did she tell you that her daughter was missing,
No, sir.
kidnapped,
No, sir.
that she was looking for her?
No, sir.
Did she ask you for help?
No, sir.
Did she tell you that anything had happened to her?
No, sir.
Did you ask anything about the car she was driving?
I asked, or she told me that it was a friend's of hers car because her car had broken down.
Did she give you any other details about her car?
No, sir.
Did you see her again in the month of June of 2008?
I do not believe so.
Okay. Did you see her in July?
Yes, sir.
Where did you see Caylee Anthony in July of 2008?
I believe it was July 7th that we saw her at, or I saw her at Buffalo Wild Wings.
All right. You said we. Who did you go to Buffalo Wild Wings with?
I went with a friend of mine.
All right. Were you planning on meeting the defendant there?
No, sir.
Do you know who she was with?
I believe it was Sean Daly and Yasin.
Do you know those two gentlemen?
Pretty much by face and recognition, that's about it.
When you saw the defendant at Buffalo Wild Wings, did you say hello?
She approached my table and said hi.
What can you tell the jury about her demeanor when you saw her in July of 2008?
She seemed upbeat and happy.
Overall.
She seemed upbeat and happy.
Again, was there anything in her demeanor that reflected anything might be wrong?
No, sir.
Objection, relevant.
Overrule? No?
Yes, sir.
Did you at one point become aware that Caylee Anthony was missing?
It wasn't till mid-July where I received a text message.
Okay. From whom did you receive a text message?
It was from her cell phone
And what did that text message say?
that Caylee had been missing for 30 days. And that's about it.
Did you ever receive a call from any member of the Anthony family?
Shortly after that text message, I received one from her brother asking if I had any information.
The question calls for a yes or no answer.
Yes, sir.
Do you know Lee Anthony?
Not very well.
Okay. Did you ever hear from the defendant on July 16th of 2008?
I received a a phone call from the corrections facility. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Let's approach the sidebar, please. You may proceed.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would withdraw the last question, and I have no further questions of this witness. Thank you very much.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Mr. Stutz.
Good afternoon.
Did you advise law enforcement that Casey wouldn't like to drink and go out because she didn't want to leave her child with her mother and her father?
Your Honor, beyond the scope of the direct examination.
Overrule. Overrule. You can ask the question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Did you advise law enforcement that Casey didn't like to go out too much or drink all that much because she didn't like to leave her child with her mother or father?
Yes.
Okay. And you've known Casey for quite a while.
Yes, sir.
And you got to see Casey and Caylee interact quite a bit.
Yes, sir.
And did you see Caylee's affection towards Casey?
Yes, sir.
And describe to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how Caylee would react around her mother.
Very loving and very wanting to interact with mom and everything like that.
And did you ever see Caylee neglected in any way?
No, sir.
Did you ever see Casey punish or torture Caylee in any way?
No, sir.
And did Caylee's affection towards Casey appear genuine?
Yes, sir.
In fact, you saw quite a bit of love between the two of them.
Yes, sir.
I have no further questions, Judge.
Any more redirect?
No, sir.
May the witness be excused.
As far as the state is concerned, yes, sir.
Defense? Thank you, sir. You may be excused.
Thank you, sir.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Crisp, how old are you?
I'm 24.
You working?
Yes, sir.
What do you do?
Residential property management.
What does that mean?
It's a little bit different from what I used to do as far as the overall day-to-day basis, but typically helping people find apartments.
All right. What were you employed back in June of 2008?
Pardon?
Were you employed in June of 2008?
Correct.
What were you doing in June of 2008?
Similar line of work.
All right. Where were you working at that time?
Crane's Landing Apartments in Winter Park.
Sir, do you know Caylee Anthony?
I do.
How long have you known her?
2002, I'd say.
From 2002 until 2008, did you keep in regular contact?
Sometimes more than others, but yes.
Did you have any contact with her in June of 2008?
Yes.
Where did you have that contact?
Could you be more specific? I
Where
apologize.
did you see her?
Originally, it was a phone call. Actual face-to-face would have been in the leasing office of said employment.
All right. You spoke with her on the phone?
Initially, yes.
Okay. Was that the same day that you saw her or
Correct.
previous?
Same day.
You recognized her voice on the phone?
Not the phone number, and I had to ask who it was, but yes, I did.
All right. When you spoke with her on the phone, what did she tell you?
That her then boyfriend was looking for an apartment and wanted to know if I was still in that same line of.
Slow down, sir.
Sorry. Her then boyfriend was looking for an apartment and wanted to know if I was still in that same line of work, and if so, if they could come take a look at the apartments.
All right. Now, was this June 19th?
I believe it was the 17th, but it could have been the 19th. I'm not sure.
It was mid-June.
It was mid-June. I'd have to refer to my statement to the exact date.
Some boyfriend is looking for it, that had nothing to do with this case.
Relevancy, Mr. George?
Your Honor,
Boyfriend looking for apartment?
Again, Your Honor, it is her, it's her state of mind, everything that this woman did between.
Boyfriend looking for an apartment.
May I ask a couple follow-up questions, Judge, that will make this relevant?
Proceed.
After that phone call, sir, did you see Caylee Anthony?
Same day, correct.
Okay. When you saw Caylee Anthony, did you also meet her boyfriend?
That is correct.
Where did you meet both of them?
In the leasing office of the apartment complex.
All right. And you believe this was either June 19th or June 17th?
Correct.
All right. When you saw the defendant at the Crane's Roost apartment complex on June 17th?
17th.
I'm sorry?
17th.
Okay, of 2008, did she at that time tell you that her daughter was missing
No.
or had been kidnapped
No.
or that she was looking for her
Negative.
or that she needed help in finding her
No.
or in any way that she was in any type of distress or trouble?
No.
Can you tell this jury that when you first saw her at Crane's
Landing.
Thank you, what her demeanor was?
Joyful, exuberant, happy.
Overall.
It had been some time since I'd seen her. She was happy.
Okay. Did you show her an apartment?
Negative.
Why?
Because she did not have her identification on her. That's a rule of thumb for the business.
All right. Did you show anyone an apartment?
Yes, sir.
All right. And was that the boyfriend?
Correct.
After showing her boyfriend the apartment, did you have any other contact with Caylee Anthony on that day?
Not to my recollection.
Did you see her any more in the month of June of 2008?
Not to my recollection.
Did you see her in July of 2008?
Correct.
Can you tell the jury when that was?
It was the 7th of July.
Okay. And where did you see Caylee Anthony on the 7th of July?
I received a phone call asking about lunch. I met her at Subway for lunch.
Okay. She called you?
Correct.
What subway did you meet her at?
University and Goldenrod, the location in the Target Plaza.
Did she bring anyone with her?
No, sir.
Just the two of you?
Yes, sir.
Did you have lunch?
Yes, sir.
Did she talk about her daughter?
It was mentioned. I asked where she was, how things were going, that sort of thing.
When you asked her how Caylee was, what was her response?
That she was in Sanford on a play date with one of her girlfriends who also had a child.
Did she give you any more information about where Caylee was other than on a play date?
No, sir.
Was it your understanding during this time period that the defendant had a job?
I believe so, and transitioning, if I could recall the conversation correctly, but I don't remember. This was a long time ago.
Okay. When you saw her on July 7th of 2008 at the Subway, how would you describe her demeanor to the jury?
Very similar to that of the prior incident. Very happy, light conversation, typical, how have you been? How are things going?
And you would give no indication that there was anything wrong?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Overruled.
I'm sorry, Judge, may I ask another question?
You may.
Sir, do you remember giving an interview with law enforcement on July 17th of 2008?
On July 17th? Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And that was with a Detective Lee?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember, or do you recall Detective Lee asking you specifically on what date it was that you met the defendant and Tony Lazaro at the Cranes Landing Apartments?
I do.
Do you remember what you told him?
As of right now, I do not.
Okay.
I believe it was the 17th. They're all written down on the documents, so.
It's okay. If you saw a transcript of your interview, would that help refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir, definitely.
Thank you. Judge, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Counsel, referring to page 719. Would be page 719, line 7.
I apologize. I'm going.
Just read it to yourself for a moment and let the train pass. Yeah. Just hold up for a minute. Just read it to yourself, sir. Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Sir, have you had the opportunity to review that transcript?
That's correct, sir.
After reviewing the transcript, can you tell the jury when it was that you met Caylee Anthony and her boyfriend at the Cranes Landing Apartments?
Correct. That date would be June 19th. And as I stated, it would be documented on the guest card that I filled out that initial day as well.
Very good. Thank you very much. I have no further questions.
Okay, you may retrieve the document.
Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, sir. Take your stuff away.
Appreciate
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Now, I'm confused, but that happens more than once a day.
I can understand.
Did you
that. I
ever meet
apologize.
the child, Caylee?
Pardon?
Did you meet Caylee?
Yes.
And when you met her, where was she?
I may have met her more than once. I don't recall.
Did you ever see that child appear to be abused,
Of the times I've seen her, no.
mistreated in any way,
Again, of the times I've seen her, no.
unhappy in any capacity at all?
Again, of the times I've seen her, no.
Well, you don't really know anything about this, the charges in this case at all, do you?
I'm sorry?
You don't know anything about how this child died.
That's an open-ended question, sir. What is it you're asking me?
Do you know how this child died?
I do not.
Do you know where she died?
I do not.
Do you know when she died?
I do not.
Thank you very much.
All right. May the witness be excused.
As far as the state is concerned, yes.